Aloha and welcome to Tiki Tuesday Talks. Excited to be here again for another week. We have a really exciting session here. We have Marc Farrell from 10 to 1 Rum. He's going to talk about building a brand and then dealing with this mess of the pandemic. Let me bring everybody on to say hello. Hey, everybody.
What's up, Pete? What's up, guys?
What's happening? Where's everybody ringing in from?
You got me live and direct from New York City, from the comfort of my apartment as usual.
Right on. Where in New York are you?
Downtown, Astor Place.
Awesome. Yeah. Fred, where are you coming in from?
Coming in from Boston, specifically Somerville, Massachusetts.
Ah, Somerville. Lovely spot. Haven't been in a while. Like to get back. And as usual, Steve and Aaron.
I'm in Birmingham.
Still in Baltimore.
On the road. Big win. How about football coming back? Do we talk about football on this? I don't know.
We can always talk about football.
There you go.
Absolutely.
We should. We went from a period of time where there was like literally no sports to watch. It was so depressing, bro, for like 2 months, 3 months. And now it's like sensory overload all day, every day. It's
I didn't crazy to watch it before.
Yeah. Totally.
Right on. All right, cool. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. So, Marc, again, founder of 10 to 1. The topic is launching a brand and adapting in a crisis. So, first of all, anybody on Crowdcast, chat box and questions, feel free to send them our way. Or if you're viewing on Facebook, same idea there. Feel free to share the event through either platform. It's much appreciated. Presentation, 30 to 40 minutes. Cocktail session, 10 minutes. Steve is going to make a drink for us. And then we have Fred on for 5 questions with the Tiki fam. A little background on Marc. Very impressive background. Proud Trinidadian, founder and CEO of 10 to 1, which is a newly launched brand that he's going to get deep into. It's a combination of deep cultural ties to the culture and intimate knowledge of the U.S. consumer market. I'm sure he's going to get into that a bit. Cheerleader in chief is the title he prefers. And really, I mean, as I know and everybody knows who's done it, you're doing all things. Building a team, product development, strategy, marketing, and sales. Previously, he held a number of roles at Starbucks as its youngest VP, including e-commerce, U.S. retail lobby, and beverage innovation. He's recruited to join the team by Howard Schultz, the company's founder and CEO. Earlier had worked in finance and attended MIT at age 16. Oh, wow. That's pretty early. Impressive. So let's, without further ado, let's bring the man on. We'll have a little chat here. How's it going?
I'm great, Pete. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me again, man. Excited to jump on here and share a little bit of the story and chop it up with you a little bit.
Right on. Well, let's put your slides up here. If we would. Here we go.
Awesome.
All right, take it away. I'll interject as needed, but really excited to hear this story and particularly interested in the way that you've addressed this thing. As a brand owner myself, I think we're all kind of looking for answers and ways to kind of work in this new world we're living in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the one thing that of course we all have in common is I think acknowledging that it has not been an easy time, so trying to find ways to kind of navigate through that adversity has certainly been a part of the 10 to 1 story for us as well. So, I'll start by just introducing myself and introducing the brand. Really glad again to spend some time with everyone here. By way of introduction, I'm Marc Farrell, founder and CEO of 10 to 1 Rum. And really as Pete kind of mentioned in the intro, probably the most critical part of my background is where I'm from. I'm somebody who was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago, spent the first 16 years or so of my life living in Trinidad before having moved to the US. I've spent the better part of the last 20 years here between the US, a couple of years in the UK. But really that is a big part of the inspiration or the genesis of 10 to 1, I should say, because for a really long time, I've kind of witnessed this massive gap between rum culture, Caribbean culture, as I know those things to be true where I'm from in Trinidad, versus the way that I've often seen it brought to life here in market in the US. I for years would kind of reflect on this fact that seemingly every other spirits category was going through its own renaissance, right? Like you saw it with vodka in the way back, Tequila feels like it has a renaissance every couple of years. American whiskey, mezcal, gin, more recently. And for a lot of consumers, and I know for folks in the community, we'll feel a bit differently about this, but for a lot of consumers, rum feels a bit like it's been left off to the side. I think the narrative around rum, I think to a lot of folks feels like it's always a low value spirit. It's always like some, sugary cocktail they discovered on spring break back in the day, or rum was the thing they were taking a swig of in their parents' basements wherever they kind of grew up in the US. And I think we want to encourage consumers to really embrace rum as being so much bigger, so much broader, so much more versatile of a spirit than that. And really kind of that's at the heart of everything that I've certainly tried to do and tried to bring to life with 10 to 1. So for us, we talk about this idea of rum reimagined, right? It's kind of the tagline of the brand. And we're always focused on this idea of challenging expectations, which, by the way, was true before the pandemic and is just as true today. We talk about sort of creating this contemporary and elevated blend, which is designed to challenge expectations and really change the way that people taste, experience, and talk about rum. Whether it is sort of the juice that's in the bottles themselves, the packaging and the creative suite, the design, the brand story, the overall narrative. To me, all of those pieces are of equal importance when we think about trying to sort of shift some of those consumer perceptions and bring something new and inspired to market. So let me actually just tell you a little bit about the two expressions we've created. I know lots of folks who might be tuning in maybe haven't had a chance to try 10 to 1 yet, or it probably isn't launched in their market. So we created two expressions, both of which are Caribbean blends. For me, I didn't want to sort of be a Trinidadian creating a Trinidadian rum. I thought there would be a lot of beauty in bringing to life these different distillation methods, different provenances, different terroirs from around the region, and sort of bring those to life through the idea of a blend. So the one that you're seeing on the screen right now is our 10 to 1 dark. It's an aged rum, which is a blend from 4 different countries: Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, and the Dominican Republic. 3 of those rums are column still rums, the exception being the Jamaican, which is a little bit of unaged high ester pot still rum. I think what that does both on the experience of the nose and on the palate is actually pretty extraordinary. Aged in ex-bourbon barrels. And I bring that up a lot of times, particularly when doing tastings with consumers, because we spend a lot of time trying to build a bridge to folks in other categories. So I'd always say, if you're a bourbon lover or a whiskey drinker, you're going to find a lot of notes in this rum that are certainly very resonant for you. And that's really important to kind of invite some others behind the curtain and experience rum for the first time. No added sugar, no color, no flavoring. We think kind of just let great rum stand on its own for sure. And if you ask me to describe this rum in a single word, versatile is the one that comes to mind. We wanted to have something that was incredible on its own. You could sip it neat, rocks, splash of soda water or coconut water, which are really great mixers for it, great foundational mixers. We call those the origin serves. And also could be used in a number of elevated craft cocktails as well. Whether you're creating a Manhattan, a Negroni, and an old fashioned, really kind of the world is your oyster. With our white rum, which you see up here now, we're equally proud of this expression. This one is a blend from 2 countries. This is some Jamaican pot still rum sitting alongside Dominican column still rum. As somebody who is a big rum nerd, as I'm sure many others on this cast would be, I love Jamaican rums, big, bold, funky, typically, at higher proof. I think sometimes struggle to find ways to make that accessible for a lot of everyday consumers. And so again, we thought we could kind of bring some of those characteristics to bear. The nose of this rum has a really interesting sort of like grassy, herbaceous quality, a little bit of citrus that comes through as well. But it's harnessed very effectively alongside the Dominican column still rum, and actually also has tremendous body. So we have this blend living at 90 proof. You don't want to fall into the trap or the feedback you hear sometimes of a lot of white rums lacking body. They kind of disappear into the back of a cocktail. And I think with our 10 to 1 white, we really wanted to make sure that it not just kind of didn't just sort of bring those really sort of amazing notes on the nose and on the palate, but had the right sort of body to stand up in tremendous cocktails. And this one is also a very, very versatile blend in its own right. You can drink it again, sort of rocks with a grapefruit wedge, splash of soda water or coconut water, kills it in a daiquiri, and a bunch of other amazing cocktails beyond there too.
Yeah, and I had a request to make the slide bigger, so I just honored that. But yeah, we definitely got some rum people very curious about the finer details here.
Dope. Okay.
An interesting point, kind of back to the original, we've heard for years and years about the coming of rum, right? Like it's finally going to be recognized as a category that's meaningful. And I'm in the cachaça business and kind of an adjacency, and Absolutely. It is, I think, totally about contextualizing, right? Like if you drink this, you might be interested in this. If you drink this, you might be interested in this. And it's exciting to see consumers and rum aficionados really starting to get it, but hopefully we see that continue to trickle through. I was super excited when I saw how back bars were really improving in the world pre-pandemic with the quality level of rums that were on them. And I'm excited and hopeful to see that trend kind of continue.
Yeah, I mean, you and me both, and I love that you kind of mentioned this idea of contextualizing, because you're right, cachaça, rum, we're cousins in many ways. For us, we spent a lot of time on building bridges and also on like sort of baseline education, right? So my big things have been what we found is if you're a tequila or if you are a whiskey or a bourbon lover, you're gonna immediately gravitate towards the dark rum. You're going to fall in love with it, guaranteed. With our white rum, because of some of those notes I mentioned, we found actually a lot of mezcal and a lot of agave drinkers in general will typically gravitate towards it. And so you're building a bridge to invite people in to try it. And then I think the other piece is, if you put a bottle of rum on your bar, right, you got a bunch of your friends to come over and they're about to have a drink. What I noticed is you often see people approach that rum with a level of tentativeness that you would never see them approach like tequila or whiskey with, right? Because everybody knows how they're going to drink their tequila, right? You see a bottle of, Don Julio or Casamigos on the table and they're going to drink it on the rocks, so they make a margarita or mix it with soda. And a lot of consumers, again, aren't totally sure what they're supposed to do with this rum. And so, again, when we think about education, we talk a lot about the idea of these, what we call the origin serves. Some baseline mixes you can use, really clean, really effective, really easy, right? So, soda water, coconut water, tonic water, all of which are ways that you would actually mix and experience and enjoy rum if you were in the Caribbean. If you guys were, at home in Trinidad with me, maybe we'll do one of these down there one of these days.
Sounds good. I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's always easy to sign people up with those, Yeah. And then once you can have people familiar with the baseline ways to mix it, the origin serves, then you can talk about this idea of the versatility of rum, right? I think that's almost, to me, one of the undersold characteristics or traits of rum. We like to say sort of, anything you can do, rum can do better. You want to create an old fashioned, a Manhattan, a Negroni, a Rumarita, a daiquiri, really kind of any of those. I think you can sort of find some joy with the brand. And so what you kind of see on the screen right now is I've told my team from day one, coming back to this idea of how you build a business and build a brand here. We are taking a product first approach in everything we do. When we tell a story, when we bring the product to market, when we create something on Instagram, whatever it is, it's always through the lens of the product. And we have to make sure that these things are known and understood, both by the trade and by consumers. And then you can sort of like build all the fancy bells and whistles around that. That's super, super important for us.
Makes sense. Smart.
I like to kind of just throw up this slide quickly because it reflects a couple key pieces of intention around the brand. I always tell people that everything we've done with 10 to 1 is super intentional, whether it's the name, the packaging, the creative suite, the proofing on the rum, the blends, etc. And really, this is no exception. So a lot of folks will typically ask, where's the name come from? I tell them the name 10 to 1 is inspired by the original Caribbean Federation, which consisted of 10 countries, right? So it's the idea of 10 becoming 1. And as Trinidad's Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, said at the time, said 1 from 10 equals 0. He was good at math, but he was making the point that if you remove 1 from the collective, the whole thing falls apart. So we say 10 to 1 is a brand that is grounded in this idea of community, strength in numbers, this notion that we are all stronger together than we are apart, right? The logo the little gold and red you can see on the screen. The logo is actually the scarlet ibis. It's the national bird of Trinidad. And the red and the white side labels that you can see on the screen are sort of riffs off of old nautical shipping labels. We kind of reference the days of sugarcane making its way from the Caribbean through to ports of Europe. And we've kind of repurposed it to tell the story of the bottle and of the blend. And I point all of those things out because for us, we wanted to show that you could create a really cool, contemporary, sleek, modern design that is still very much grounded in authentic Caribbean history, culture, heritage, right? Like that is of equal importance to me when I've thought about the ambition for building the brand and bringing 10 to 1 to life, right? Like again, thinking about what the objectives are here. In my mind, I always say to our team, it takes two hands to clap here to build a successful business. On the one hand, the product has to be excellent, right? So again, we want that juice to be extraordinary, the use cases, the versatility, all of that stuff. And then when you think about the brand story, that to me is where we come back to this idea of bringing a much more contemporary, authentic, inspired view of Caribbean culture to life. And that actually starts with the name, starts with the bottle, and then extends into all of the other creative that we execute as a brand. These are our brand pillars super quickly. So I kind of mentioned the extensions into how we tell the story. We have 3 brand pillars. The first is Caribbean made. Caribbean made is this, here's how I like to describe this. Caribbean made is this notion that you don't have to be born and raised in Trinidad with a Trinidadian passport to be Caribbean made, right? If your mother or your grandmother is from the Caribbean, that is Caribbean made. If you've been to Trinidad Carnival or fallen in love on the beaches of Montego Bay, right? That is Caribbean made. Pete, I know where we're going to get you. It's pretty carnival. I see the eyes light up already. Somebody who's grown up in the US, who maybe is inspired by Caribbean food, music, art, fashion, that to me is Caribbean made. And so this brand, very inclusive by its very nature, wants to wrap its arms around a much bigger, broader idea of what it means to be Caribbean made. You'll see it over and over again in our brand. Beauty in the blend is a very natural extension of that. The rums, of course, themselves are blends, but more importantly, we're talking about the blend of cultures, communities, perspectives that all have a seat at the table that we call 10 to 1, right? Very core to our ethos, core to our identity, and something that we believe on the most fundamental of levels. And then finally, the art of celebration. And tons of spirit brands talk about celebration. We're certainly not the first, we won't be the last. But we think that sort of doing that uniquely through the lens of Caribbean made and beauty in the blend is really what sets us apart. And these, I think, we're all kind of really proud to share with the world. I think if you look very quickly sort of at how that extends into our customer, we talk about a new generation of consumers who aren't one-dimensional in their taste or certainly in their expression, right? We use this tagline, elevated, not exclusive. There are no velvet ropes with our brand. People who are socially and culturally fluid, who value versatility and their own form of expression, who don't necessarily, who aren't afraid to sort of venture off the beaten path. I think those are some of the fundamental tenets of the customer and the consumer that we try to talk to on an ongoing basis.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, just kind of really quickly, I was sort of asked a couple of months ago, hey, you guys have had a really nice start in market. Like, what would you say some of the points of differentiation or the key success factors have been? And I kind of sat down to think about it, and I kind of came up with 5. And I've touched on all of them actually so far. So first is just the liquid expressions. Again, they're very unique. The blends, the barrel aging, the pot and column mix, the extra proofing on the white, lots of arrows in the quiver there. The brand and creative suite certainly resonates with a lot of folks. Having an authentic and an ownable story, being a Trinidadian or Caribbean born and raised founder, telling the story of who I am and sort of where I'm from, I think has made a difference here. I think we take a unique approach to our marketing, really as the 4th pillar. And then I think the time that we spend activating in market is also really, really critical as well. I continually reflect on the fact that this is very much a roll up your sleeves business, right? There's no substitute for like getting out there in market and understanding how people use the product, what resonates with them, what they love and what they don't love as much, where you can improve, how you can support. And so those are really kind of the pillars that have been critical to us. And so if I kind of look at how that's translated to success to date, we had started by launching in New York just over a year ago, June 2019. We said we would actually spend the first 10 months or so here in market before moving elsewhere. We were meant to launch in Illinois and in Florida in April. Of course, COVID hit. We'll talk about that in a second. But we're now in the process of rolling out Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Georgia, South Carolina, with a few other states, DC, Florida, California, and Washington also on deck. We've seen the brand find success in a broad array of different points of distribution. So whether that's your high-end cocktail spots, your fine dining, your certainly your rum-centric Tiki spots have developed a lot of love for the brand and beyond. And then getting some nice press and media coverage around the brand too, which again, I think is important only insofar as, being a young brand and creating some of that excitement and some of that buzz that gets people to walk into that bar or that restaurant or into that liquor store to really ask or call for 10 to 1 by name. So I'm gonna pause there for a hot second, because that's just kind of like the quick introduction to the brand and sort of like the reason for being, how we launched, the early success that we saw, ... And then of course COVID happens, right? And I think
before you get into that, we have a question here.
Sure.
What distilleries are you sourcing the rums from in the various countries, and what are the age profiles?
Yeah, sure. So I'll answer individually. So the dark rum, like I mentioned, 4 different countries. It would be Foursquare from Barbados, Worthy Park from Jamaica, Angostura from Trinidad, and AFD from the Dominican Republic. As I mentioned, those rums are 8 years old, the Dominican and the Bajan, which really actually make up almost 90% of the blend, actually. And then the Trinidadian is a 3-year-old, and the Jamaican is unaged. So again, this idea of adding a little bit of unaged high ester pot still rum to what is a very exceptional blend was something that we were excited about doing. And I think it lends a lot of additional versatility to the spirit for sure. The white rum, a blend 2 countries, Worthy Park from Jamaica, pot still on that side, AFD from the Dominican Republic. So those 2 distilleries feature in both rums, with the Foursquare and the Angostura layered onto the dark rum blend.
Awesome. Some great distilleries for sure, and some that our crew is very familiar with. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, some really iconic distilleries with some great product in there, without a doubt. Yeah.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah.
All right, pandemic. Let's get to the fun stuff.
So we're motoring along, by March.
Perfect timing, by the way. Really just sliding right into a pandemic. Like, couldn't tell it better.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't have timed it any better,
Yeah.
March and April come along, and you're moving, you're getting ready for spring, summer. I look back now at some of the plans that we had. I look at some of our marketing docs that we created in February and March, and I actually just laugh out loud, right? I mean, it's so ridiculous to think about, the best laid plans, the best of intentions, right? But you're presented with a crisis situation, and you figure out what you can do from there. So.
Just in context, I launched an Aquavit brand at about the same exact timing as you. So May, June 19.
Right.
And I missed the spring of last year because of the government shutdown.
Right.
So I couldn't get the TTB label in time.
Right.
And then obviously this is like the lost spring of the universe for everybody in the world. So anyway, I feel your pain.
Yeah, absolutely. You're like, all of a sudden I'm talking about 2021. It's crazy,
Yeah.
So the header of this slide, I think, is probably the understatement of the year of the decade, the century for all of us, right? It's certainly been a challenging year. And I think, there are so few moments in human history, I think, where it literally feels like the wheel stops for everyone, right? Like usually, maybe the East Coast is struggling and the West Coast is thriving, or one country is doing well while another country is in turmoil. This has truly been global in its nature. And I think not just global from a country on a country by country basis, but on a really sort of fundamentally human level. Mm-hmm. I was having lunch with a couple of buddies the other day, trying to recount all the things that have comprised the shit show of 2020. I couldn't even come up with the whole list. I mean, there's too many things, right? There's too many things. But in the context of this conversation, I really kind of focused on the two that certainly have been front and center, or most directly front and center for me, and certainly for the company. And those are, of course, the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and I think the broader, I would say broader civil rights reckoning, right, that we've had here in this country that certainly has been manifested through Black Lives Matter and other things of that nature. And I think the questions that it really has precipitated for us are, number one, how do we adapt a business model that was predominantly on-premise, like most young brands in an unprecedented environment like this? And the second was, again, of course, as a young, 37, I don't know if I'm young anymore, but a youngish, yeah, let's say youngish, approaching middle age, Black entrepreneur, founder, who clearly has a perspective on his brand and that brand voice. How do you bring that to life against the backdrop of the current climate? It's something that we obviously, and I obviously, wanted to think very long and very hard about. And so, a big part of the last 5 or 6 months has been this question of how you can really convert crisis into opportunity, right? And in that vein, I'll really kind of say that there are a couple of things that we wanted to focus on, right? So I really kind of thought about 3 big pillars for managing, leading, and innovating through this period. The first one was all about having very clear brand principles, and I honestly I can't overstate this one. I was on a IG live a few weeks ago, got a question from the audience, and somebody was asking whether I had completely designed or created the brand before launch, and I said to that person, I said, well, no, a brand is kind of like a living, breathing organism, right? Like it changes over time. Like you put it out there, you get feedback from people, you sort of refine, you sort of evolve the story. So you can't have a brand set in stone before you launch it. But I do think brand principles are super, super important. And this is having a very clear sense of who you are and what you believe in, right? Those things I think can be established before you launch. And I think those have served us extraordinarily well. I mean, in a little bit of the preamble that I gave introducing the brand, it talks about some of these things, right? But Caribbean made is certainly very, very important to us and what that means about creating community. We endeavor to be authentic. We want to have an active voice. I'm not gonna sit on the sidelines. And as a brand, we're not gonna sit on the sidelines. We want to be inspired. We want to be inclusive in our nature, right? And then once you've done that, the next big piece for me and for us was all about setting the tone. I pulled our team together. Must have been around March 20th or thereabouts, as of course New York had kind of just shut down completely, and try to reinforce to them that it was certainly a very challenging time. None of us had any idea how long it would go on or is going on for, and sort of what to do about it. But that I wanted to express to them, number one, a sense of calm, and number two, a sense of belief in what it is we're doing, right? I think that's where the value of some sense of optimism and the longer game certainly comes into play. I wanted to make sure that our team felt understood, right? We've all had to process this and experience this in very different ways. So the one thing you can't do here is superimpose my experience onto Pete's experience or Fred's experience or anyone else, right? You want to make people feel understood. And I think now more than ever, right? I think really investing in this idea of community, right? I think we spent a lot of time trying to think about not just what we could do to close ranks as a team, but to really sort of foster more support and more good energy, I should say, for the community at large. That certainly we're very proud to be a part of. And then I think the last thing, I call it a bias for action. And anybody who knows me knows how obsessive I am about this. It's like, let's just get shit done, right? Like we can't sit here at a desk and keep on sketching our plans and making presentations or whatever. It's actually about making sure that we have the flexibility to adapt and respond. We're going to act fast. We're going to put some stuff out there, and if it doesn't work, whatever, who cares? Let's just find the next thing. Did you learn something? What can you take from it? And so again, as a team, we're investing in being innovative. Everyone says that, but we want that to be core to our DNA. Courageous, take some chances, make some mistakes, keep it moving. We're hungry. desperate to like build more, learn more, do more. Super nimble, super responsive, right? And so really kind of in a nutshell, as I thought about setting the table for how we would handle this or face this crisis head on, those were the three core things that I think really set us, I think, on a positive and a proactive path to see our way through some of this.
Cool.
So talk a little bit about, you know, kind of converting some of that into tangible action, right? And one of the things we had to do was sit down and figure out how to build a new playbook for 10 to 1, right? Yeah, I'm sure you guys have caught on TTO is just 10 to 1, how we abbreviate it everywhere. You know, as is the case for most young brands, you know, you build a lot of your energy, a lot of your equity, a lot of your volume on premise, right? And that sort of moves into the off premise and maybe other channels over time. We had to kind of find a way to turn that traditional model on its head. Again, in a world where, you know, I'm in New York City and literally there's no bar or restaurant that's open here for a matter of months, right? And so I think we kind of had a couple of key points of investment. Number one was, first of all, trying to identify some new channels that we could build some momentum in. So industry partnerships with a potential to drive volume, investing in standing up our own e-commerce direct to consumer as a way of, you know, liquid to lips driving trial and driving affinity for the brand is always going to be really important. It was really critical for us to embrace the shift to digital. I say embracing it is very different from seeing that it's there and kind of going along with it, right? Like we're going along somewhat unwillingly. We were like, listen, we were doing all this really dope stuff. We're putting all these events and activations and doing cool storytelling. How do we transition some of that into the digital realm, right? So a whole series of different, like, you know, digital events and activations that really kind of became core to our playbook from March onwards was really, really critical. And the third piece was really all about, like, you know, saying, how do we just kind of adopt some innovative tools to support our core business, right? Like let me, so this, just to be super clear, where our on-premise efforts are concerned, we know on-premise is here to stay. We know our desire to support that is here to stay. And so we're going to stay the course. But we're going to find some new and unique ways to drive our engagement in that channel, which I'll talk to in a second. We're going to get more aggressive with off-premise, maybe sooner than we would have otherwise, again, as a young brand. And we're going to sort of work on what we've actually seen over the last 6 months is a shift in our volume, which probably was about 80-20 on to off to about 50-50 on and off as it currently stands, right? So this whole new playbook, new revenue, new channels was a very, very critical part of our approach these last few months.
Got it. Yeah, and just so if anybody doesn't know, on being bars, restaurants, hotels, off being liquor stores and retail.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry about that. Should have
clarified that. We live it every day. But
we live exactly. Things are seeping through my my pores now, you know, through my pores. So I'll just kind of touch on these super quickly, but, you know, giving people a sense of how some of those things were brought to life. So social and digital. For us, this is all about continuing to, this shouldn't say building, it should actually say continuing to build a credible and authentic brand, right? You know who you are, what you stand for. Now is a chance to amplify that and bring it to life. And so for us, that was about building our brand voice through this Caribbean-made lens, right? Even things like the social rights reckoning and Black Lives Matter come from the vantage point of Caribbean-made and somebody who's from there, and is, of course, also a person of color. We certainly spent a lot of time thinking about how we could better support our community through, you know, content that was geared more towards the at-home DIY experience, while everybody became an armchair bartender all of a sudden, as we're all too familiar with. A lot of emphasis on consumer engagement and participation. So, you know, we built a lot of tools that were about how we can hear from you, how you can participate, what you can share as an element of building that community. And the last piece was really trying to figure out how we could better leverage our own platform to support the broader community, the broader industry, I should say, and elevate some of those other voices in trade. So on the next slide, you'll see a couple of examples of how we did that. We put together some of our own original programming. The hospitality support series was something that we were really proud of. You know, we did a couple installments of this where we hosted some webinars for members of the community, really kind of focused on trying to shine a light on some of the topics that were affecting them most adversely. So the first session was kind of focused more on the nuts and bolts of labor law. Just lost my job, filing for unemployment, getting my side hustle up and running, some financial planning and some of those elements, et cetera, et cetera. The second installment was actually focused a little bit more holistically on things like health and wellness, overall mental health, resources and tools that were available for folks. And again, it's not, you're never going to see this up on a billboard anywhere, but it was something that we felt was really important to do to kind of, in our little corner of the universe, find a path to contributing to folks in whatever little way we could. So we did that as one program. By any medium necessary. I keep on harping on this idea of Caribbean made and how it intersects with this social justice movement, right? Like for us, we want to bring together a bunch of Caribbean creatives, right? Many of whom, again, like I said, I've lived in the US longer than I've lived in Trinidad, right? I'm still 100% Trini, but I've lived in the US my entire adult life. So, and there are many folks like me as well. And so bringing that community together to have a conversation about what they or what we as creatives can do to better use our platforms in the spirit of advancing this sort of social justice agenda, which is a really, really riveting, amazing conversation that we hosted with some tremendous panelists. And I think we'll certainly continue rolling out that in a series of installments over time. Some other examples, we had a cool little IG Live Cooking with Rum segment where we bring in a bunch of up-and-coming chefs, or established chefs, I should say, to find ways to highlight the rum and some of the dishes or desserts that they were creating, which was just super fun and really a really dope way to engage. We had our 10-to-1 frontline worker support initiative where we partnered with some of our accounts in New York, right, to provide meals for frontline workers. We had a social initiative asking people to share photos of their bars or their drinks. Doesn't matter whether it's 10-to-1. And we use that as a mechanism for raising funds to donate to some of these charities like City Harvest NYC. So that was another one we were really proud of. And then finally, some of these Caribbean-made conversations, again, highlighting some of the work of this new generation of creatives who really kind of orbit around the 10-to-1 brand was super fun to create as well.
I think one thing to me out of that really, I mean, those all sound great, but I love the idea of cooking and spirits. I think it's just such an underappreciated linkage that just needs to come out more to the forefront. So glad you're doing that. I'll have to check that out. And I think pretty exciting things that you guys are doing on that. There was a comment over here that maybe something to consider would be a higher proof iteration for the future on the aged one. So who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Stay tuned. I think for us, we take all that feedback for sure. I think we've found that with the two expressions we have to date, they kind of paint the corners of the map pretty well. But certainly a higher proof aged rum could be on the cards. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to say this just yet, but I'll say it anyway. We're actually this is breaking news, Pete. This is breaking news. we're actually launching.
Talks. We're bringing the breaking news.
Listen, y'all, you people, everyone who's tuning in, you need to know, right? You got to come to Pete for the breaking news. You ask the hard hitting questions. We get all the facts on here, right? So we're actually launching a reserve SKU this holiday. It'll drop in November. It's going to be actually a 17-year-old single cask reserve rum, all Trini, sort of like 1,200-1,300 bottles. So very, very limited run, but excited to bring that to life. And I bring that up, A, because it's exciting, and B, because as one of your audience members kind of asked the question about a higher proof, I think there's certainly opportunities here to continue sort of expanding the awareness, the education, the experience around rum, right? So, maybe you do an extra old, right? Maybe you do, after you've done the blends, maybe you do some single origins, maybe you play with proofing. I think all of those are arrows in the quiver to really kind of get people excited about the category and get them engaged, not just with 10-to-1, which obviously is certainly a dream of mine, but with rum on the whole,
Awesome. Well, I'll send you my address for this.
We got you. I got you. Exactly. You know what you're getting for Christmas already. You're good.
There you go. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Dope. A couple of more examples of things that we did. Those ones are more programming. These were more events. So we kind of said everything we used to do offline, let's bring it online, right? We do these virtual happy hours and cocktail classes. They're really dope. Do them over Zoom. We have a bunch of corporate partners who've hit us up to experience the rum, lead a tasting, learn how to make a couple of rum cocktails. Whereas we would have done those events IRL in real life before. That's been great. We came up with a texting hotline. The numbers up there, and it's super dope. Basically, the concept is you're a consumer, you're at home, you open your fridge, you don't really know how to make heads or tails of these leftover oranges you have and the one bottle of bitters you have and whatever the case is. You text this hotline, tell us what you have. It does not need to be 10 to 1. We just want to help you make delicious stuff, and we'll send you back a recommendation or a recipe on that basis. So really proud of that. And then we've done these virtual founders tastings. So again, I am cheerleader in chief evangelist or ambassador for the brand. You'll often find me out in market, saddle up next to a bar, leading a tasting, talking through the notes, how to use the product. We put that online too. So now you can get a virtual founders tasting of both the dark and the white rums, which again, I think have been just really effective, right, in continuing to kind of spread the word and spread the story, even when we can't meet up in person. So these are all part of the whole notion of embracing the shift to digital.
That's funny. I like that lime line. That's a good name there.
Yeah.
One of our food partners at Tiki by the Sea, the name of the business is Crab Cake Hotline.
That's all right.
I think it's Crab Cake Hotline. Crab Cake Hotline is the name. So it's
that's awesome.
It's very explicit. It's literally the best crab cake I've ever had. Maybe a little pairing, little mashup there, but yeah, no, that's super fun. I think it's a great way to engage people on it.
Yeah. Tell them I'm ready for the collab anytime. So
you gotta
do it, man. Like actually, so in Trinidad, the single most ubiquitous word in Trinidad is liming or to lime, right?
Mm.
So for us, liming is the art of hanging out. That we don't like in Trinidad. You don't say you're hanging out with somebody. You say like, "Yo, I'm gonna go lime at Pete's house," or Pete and I went to lime last night, right? So it is just this. Liming has no rules, right? It's all about it's really the only thing you cannot do is you cannot lime by yourself. It needs other people. It's inherently social in nature, and so we take those little kind of elements of the brand, of the culture, and sort of sprinkle them on the brand. And the lime line is a really good example of that.
And a 17-year limited edition rum might help in your liming. I think
it'll absolutely help. It'll definitely help. Greases the wheels nicely. Cool. So yeah, last couple of ones here, just kind of home stretch for the crew who's tuning in. Embracing the shift to digital is certainly important. I think thinking about how we can continue to build brand awareness is really a part of that. So I think the first effort we made in that vein was around, of course, our own e-commerce, getting that up and running. I think we've seen some solid success there, some really positive success, I should say, there, as far as getting bottles into the hands of consumers as quickly as we can. You're getting a little sneak peek of shop10to1rum.com on your screen there. The next thing I think we spent a lot of time on is, I think, continuing to build sort of like the overall halo for the brand. And I put this up here, the press and media coverage, not to say, oh, look at all this press that we have. I actually put it up here more because I think, again, going back to the early points of who you are and what you stand for, I think for us, a big question has been like, what conversations do we actively want to be a part of? I mean, of course, you've seen, hundreds of these Black-owned businesses and Black-owned lists and all of that stuff. And that's cool, and certainly very grateful for those without a doubt. But I think, again, like, how do you more actively embrace this moment in time and use it to sort of like stand for something bigger? And I think, like, again, finding ways to harness our voice against that backdrop has been really, really important to us. And, hopefully, again, we'll be sort of net positive, not just for the business, but for the broader community as a whole. Partnerships. We've done a lot of these, and actually, as we'll kind of say that of the 9 partnerships we're kind of showing on here, 7 of these actually happened post-COVID. And so again, like back to the whole idea of sort of building and managing in a crisis, right? Like we're not sitting on our hands, right? Like as a team, I'm telling my whole crew, like, yes, the wheel has been broken on some level, but we're going to find ways to be innovative. We're going to find ways to kind of bring these things to life, whether that's through some of these like consumer media and content platforms, whether that's through channel partnerships that again can kind of put the rum in people's hands, whether it's through finding unique ways to support our existing accounts and bring other partners to the table and bring things to life. I think we've been really excited about what we've been able to do here. I think if you kind of flip to the last slide, you'll see just a couple of visual examples of those. Like we have some limited edition Converses that we created right after we launched, which are pretty dope. We just dropped a little consumer collab with Fila for those slides. Great summertime, or I mean, wear them whenever you want. We did a really cool cocktail piece with the Infatuation a few weeks back, which was great. We actually featured the Carabinho. Like we said early on, helping people understand how to mix rum and how to make foundational cocktails is really important as well. And then you're also seeing some examples of what we did with Miss Lily's and Morgan Stearns for National Pina Colada Day. We did a whole sort of block party setup with another one of our accounts in New York here called Gupshup. And the list kind of continues from there. And so letting this continue to be part of how we tell the story, evangelize for the brand, and support our own partners in the process, I think has been a very, very critical part of how we've continued to keep the momentum going, even during the time of COVID and everything else happening.
You're warming my marketing heart. I feel like I often describe my background as I'm a marketer who spends 99% of my time doing sales.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least pre-COVID. Who knows anymore?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
We actually have a question here about the partners. So do you have different partners or whatever you want to share within that with this business? What do you want to talk about with regard to that?
So I think that means like the 10-to-1 team itself, yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We have that's funny. We have a slide for that, but I took it out because I thought that'd be boring for everybody. But
it's not.
We were wrong. I was wrong. This is not my first entrepreneurial go around. You know, I had another business in sports and media that I ran for 5 years before the whole Starbucks gig, etc. Right, and I'm only bringing that up because if you ask me what some of the most critical ingredients are for success or giving yourself a shot at success, right? Because we're not successful yet, we're new. But investing in people, investing in the right people is really critical. And I am fortunate to say, I think we're blessed to say we have an extraordinary team. So yes, we actually have a core team of 8 of us. We have 2 guys, Matt Eisenman and Chris Lovett. Some of the folks who are tuning in might know them, who work more on the sales brand management side in their respective markets. Both really, really awesome dudes. We have a couple ladies, shout out to Shivani who's helping out here, who help us on the marketing side, and they've all been incredible. Zach Waxel, a friend of mine who is a co-founder of the brand and does more of the operational side of the business as well. So we have a really great core team of 7 or 8 of us who work on the brand on a day-to-day basis. And we have an incredible board of advisors. A guy called Rob Malcolm, who was the ex-global CMO at Diageo, ex-chief commercial officer at Beam Suntory, my old boss at Starbucks, who was our global CMO. So it's nice to have some adult supervision in the room for certain things that we do and that we work on. You know, I think you have to. I talked a lot in the beginning about sort of this brand being a lot about telling the story of who I am and where I'm from. And I say that not from a place of hubris, right? It's just like I'm from the Caribbean, so I'm telling a Caribbean story through the lens of the brand. But in order to bring that vision to life, yeah, having a team of people who are here to kind of like support the cause and like, you know, keep you honest and bring some new ideas and some new perspective to the table is super, super critical. So long answer to the question to say yes, lots of other tremendous folks who are helping to bring 10-to-1 to life.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, I'll echo. Advisory board was huge for us, especially really in the early days of what we were doing when we honestly had very little knowledge of the industry, very little knowledge of how to go about it. And it saved us tons of time and money. Just to your point, adult supervision.
Adult supervision, bro. Let somebody else, you know, benefit from somebody else's mistakes and somebody else's hard take. If you guys want to take a little bit of advice away from this, just do that. Seriously, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right on. Cool. So thank you very much. Let's make a cocktail here because I think that's really what we're all about.
Let's do it. Let's get the people their drinks.
Let's get the people their drinks. Let's bring Steve on in. Hi, Steve.
Hi, y'all.
What's up, Steve? How you doing?
Hi, Mark.
What's going on?
Do you want to talk about this cocktail you're about to make? The spec is up here. We encourage you guys to make it at home, post it. You saw the link to grab 10 to 1, or you can find it in our newsletter to get it delivered to your door.
Yeah, so this is Caribbean inspired, obviously, 10 to 1. So we're going to start with a little 10 to 1 rum. And it's called Phonographic Memories because there is a book about how Caribbean music ties you to the memories of where you are. So I thought that would be really important to what we've been talking about today and how you incorporate sense memory. So I've added my 10 to 1 rum. I'm going to add a little Creole shrub just to keep everything in the Caribbean.
Put the spec up here one more time.
Yeah. And then I made a yellow curry and honey syrup. When I was researching like Trini food, a lot of chutney is present and marmalade, and so I wanted to incorporate those flavors. And
what's in that syrup? How'd you make the syrup?
It's just 1 to 1 honey and yellow curry powder and water. You never boil a syrup because you don't want it to start to crystallize. So I just put it on the stove, let it simmer so the honey dissolves with the water a little bit, add the curry powder, let all the flavors melt together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it tastes pretty good. Then we're going to add a little orange juice. Make everything fun and delicious. Add our ice. Mark, tell me about your favorite Trini food.
Favorite Trini food? Yeah. Well, so you're speaking my language with the curry right there. I'd say for any Trini you talk to, you're probably going to find that they're talking about either like curry chicken, curry and roti.
Yeah.
So Trinidad is like 40% Indian, 40% black by ethnicity, bunch of mixed white, Syrian, Lebanese, Chinese. So we kind of have everything there, and it means that the food is incredible. So roti and curry. We have like an Indian street food called doubles, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then macaroni pie, which is like our version of sort of a baked mac and cheese that every Trini mom makes for you or whatever. Those would be my favorites. They're all amazing.
If macaroni and cheese isn't baked, it's not real. I just want to go ahead and tell you that.
let them know, Steve. Make sure everybody knows.
Yeah. Every person from the South, if there's no crust on it, it's fucking suspect as hell. So I'm going to strain into this glass, add a little ice already crushed, just to make it real summery, because I live in Alabama and it's still hot as hell here. So
Right. Need that ice.
Yeah. And then, you know how everybody loves to put a little tangine on fruit? I put a little extra curry powder.
Oh.
Oranges.
Oh, nice.
So that we just have a little extra flavor on the top, because that never hurts anybody's feelings, right? So cheers to you.
Wow, look at that. We'll throw this up one more time. By the way, Mark, our office apartment is in Crown Heights, so we're like in the epicenter of the Trini food universe in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah, exactly. So you sampled a little bit of Trini fare in your time, right?
Roti, for sure.
Yeah. No, when you have a little bit of when you have all the pangings and the and sort of missing home, missing the food and stuff, getting over to Brooklyn, getting over to Crown Heights in particular, is always a nice escape. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Right on. All right, so let's bring on Fred here. Mark, we're going to bring you back in a moment. Thank you very much. It's been really rad. Sir, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Not bad. Just wishing I had that cocktail in front of me right now.
It's very good.
Yeah. I didn't realize how creative that was until now. It Not that I'm going to make that myself, but I'll drink it through you.
I feel you.
All right, Fred, your questions. Weirdest thing you saw in Wildwood?
Weirdest thing. Wow. So I think it was like the last morning. One of the people said they could sleep anywhere, anytime, and Shane fell asleep on a float, and we made sort of like a playful Jenga on him that was probably 20 items, maybe 4 or 5 feet tall. And then he wouldn't wake up until someone cannonballed in the pool.
Wow.
That was
I think there's a photo of that.
Great.
that was safe for work weirdest thing I saw.
There you go. Fair enough. Let's keep it that way. Describe Steve Casey in one word.
I met Steve at Camp Runnemont, and just been delightful ever since. And then I saw, through when she visited Boston at Thirst, just, smiley face to warm the heart.
So delightful is the word.
If you want to pick one, yes.
All right. I'll go with that. That's fair. Okay. Favorite meal, Wildwood. Favorite meal.
I think it was a meal moment. It was the first breakfast. This was June 2018. We'd all gotten up, maybe a little groggy, and here's breakfast. And then Giuseppe Gonzalez and Nectali Mendoza gave a talk about their life, their wild life, and then finding sobriety and balance. And I think that breakfast was not a food, but it's a food moment.
Yeah.
Was a wonderful,
That was a good one. Good call. Favorite Tiki by the Sea memory overall? Favorite memory?
It might have been the boardwalk, but the tour was really good. Those two. Being in a pool, I hadn't been in a pool that season, and I don't know, things that I regret that we can't do anymore is the sharing of communal drinks on the bus on the way there.
Oh yeah.
I think there was like a Jungle Bird and a Jet Pilot, and can't pass a bottle like that anymore.
Fair enough. Hopefully we will again at some point in the future. Tell us what's up in Boston. What's happening in your world?
My bartending kind of shut down in the spring. I currently have been still being a whiskey guardian with Angel's Envy. That's been unique, as for reasons that you've been discussing with your brand and Marc's brand. Shifting to off-premise, seeing if we could do anything with on-premise, or where we have some indoor dining, but most of it's outdoors. We don't have bar seating, so bartenders, if they are working, are drink makers / servers. It's a unique time. We're wondering what's happening, especially when the weather gets colder. It's kind of unique.
Indeed. Nothing more fun than off-premise buyers, right? Really engaging crew, just people you want to hang out with all the time.
If you get the right one and they're interested, it's a wonderful experience. If you can get them to return your phone call to begin with, you've done well.
There you go.
I think what I learned in my previous life in business was the most valuable thing you can do is return a message or phone call promptly, and I never got that. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I had to get used to that really quickly in the world in which we live in terms of responsiveness. It's very different than many other industries. Let's say that. Well, thanks for joining us, man. It was good to see you. Let's bring Marc back in. Marc, I realized I need to put this up here, which is your contact info. Email info@10to1rum.com, IG at 10to1rum, and the website here. Again, super rad having you. FYI for next week, we're really excited. We have Kelsey Ramage, co-founder of Trash Tiki, So we're going to talk trash tiki and fermentation, sponsored by Appleton. Let's get everybody back on. Right on. So fun. Impressive
awesome
stuff, Mark. Really good innovation. I wish I had your stamina and creativity around dealing with this. But yeah, I think it was really fun hearing about what you guys have been doing, the rums in general. I look forward to tasting that special reserve hot take that we have on here. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. Thanks again for having us, man. Much appreciated. Fred, great to meet you. Steva, lovely to hang, and thanks for the amazing cocktail. And yeah, look forward to picking it too.
Right on. We'll do it again.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye.